is Melochim Perek Halacha Hey, and the Rambam says, "V'chein koife can force as a win those who are eligible to be rulers and mana oitzam. He points them sorry alofim, heads of thousands, and sorry chamishim, heads of 50. Shenema it says v'losam loy sorry alofim v'sorry chamishim. As it says in the pasuk, the place for him sorry alofim v'sorry chamishim. We go down to the Peirush, and the Rambam writes that he can be on Sorry Alofim was on 1,000 people, Sorry Chamishim on 50 people, because it says in Shmuel those two numbers, Sorry Alofim and Sorry Chamishim. We continue to Hilchos Yesodei HaTorah Halacha Vov. V'loikeach ha-sodos. He takes the fields v'azesim and the olives v'akromim and the vineyards. Now, Peirush says when they don't have what to eat, it's permitted for them to go out and take from the fields. La'avodo for his servants, for their needs of war. He has to pay for it. Shenema, again, it's found in Shmuel, and your fields and your orchards, and your olive orchards, atoivim, the best ones, lokach, he will take v'nosan la'avod, and he will give to his servants. Hagos Maimonides points out that when Achov Melech Yisrael wanted to take the vineyard of Nevois, and Nevois didn't want to give it to him, he murdered him, and Hashem punished him for this. And the question is, why was he punished if it's permitted to be taken? The Hagos Maimonides explains, Rae Gann clarified that he was punished because what it says in V'nosan la'avodo, that he will give it to his workers. He doesn't have permission to take it for himself. Now the answer is that if a king wants to take a field or a vineyard without payment, he may do so. But Achav wanted that Novi should sell it to him, and even though Novi didn't agree, he's not considered Moered v'malchus because he doesn't have a right to force somebody to sell him something. And he brings proof that Rabbi Shimon Ambil answered that only a king who's king of all the tribes of Israel can take fields as he wants, and Achav was only king on Yehuda and Binyamin. And he adds further that Rav Vadimus said it's permitted for a king to take fields that people purchased for him, but not what was purchased on their own, but not that which was belonged to their parents. In other words, it's a family estate. And he brings proof from this when it says in Ta'achov, Cholidali me Hashem Nisiti is nachos avois hailoch, that Novis said the reason I'm refusing is because it's family property for generations. So the Vaz infers in the language of the Rambam, he takes the fields for his slaves, but he's of the opinion like Rae Gann Family, but only for the needs of his slaves he can take it, but not for himself. And he adds furthermore that the whole permission is only at the time of war, like the Rambam says, when they go out to war, but not in the time of war. He has no permission just to take whatever he wants. So Lecha Mishnah explains, he'll take the fields like the Radak, and the Posuk only gave permission to take it without payment, the fruits, but not the field itself. Achaim Sha'al questions on the Lecha Mishnah that the Melech can take the fruits without payment, that even for the payments, the fruit, it says he has to pay for it, as the Rambam said, that the king has to pay for what he takes, what the soldiers take. And the Zohar, in Parshas Vayeshev, it's brought down that Ach was punished that he for killing Novois and not on the merit of the king to take the field. And he points out that the Sanhedrin Ketano and Sanhedrin 20 Beis, the Rambam writes that it's forbidden for him to take the vineyard. Now we're going to learn Melochim, Perek Daled, Halacha Zayin, and Ches. V'yesh loi ma'aseh min hazorim min ha'leinonos min ha'behemois. And he takes a tithe from everything that's grown, from trees, with fruits, and from animal. Shenemar says, Zarechem v'kamechem ya'asu, he'll take a tenth of them. Tzeinchem ya'asu. In the Peirush, basically, they bring down just with the psukim from again from Shmuel. In Ches, the Melech HaMashiach, when Mashiach will come, Noitel Mikol Arozei Shekoivshin Yisrael, he will take from all the lands that Israel will conquer, Chelik Echad Mishloisha also, one portion out of 13. This happens to be a rule for him and his children forever. So now we count when the king, he will take 1/13. In the future, he will again divide Eretz Yisrael, be 13 portions. 12 will be for the Shvotim, the 13th will be for Melech HaMashiach. So Vaz cites from Yechezkel in 48:21 that what was left over will be for the prince, for the Kodesh. We get just equivalent to that which is given to the king. That always the prince, who was the king, took like one of the tribes, and the Nasi that's being referred to is Melech HaMashiach, like in the Rashbam, who states so in Baba Basra 122. Questions: why should the portion of the king of Mashiach be different than any other one who he receives? Now, whatever he receives is for him and for his slaves and for those who go to war, according to what he wants, and he leaves for himself what he wants. Why does it say differently when Mashiach comes? And we'll have to ask him when he comes. In Shas Shudas Igos Moshe, he makes us aware that the Rambam doesn't mention what we find about Basra, that Los Love Shevet Levi will take a portion at Yisrael like other Shvatim, and that what it says that Shah Levi Echod, that means that the Rambam is of the opinion that the Levim will not take a portion in Eretz Yisrael because Melech HaMashiach will take that portion from the 13. And therefore there's no 13 portions, that Levi should take one extra. And he explains that which is written, that the Kohen Levim will not have or in all of Shevet Levi will not have a portion or an inheritance with Yisrael, is even in the future, like every other prohibition in the Torah, which remains eternal. And he points out as well that the Melech HaMashiach takes 1/13. That nullifies the din of the Torah, where it says, "To these shall the land be distributed, only to 12 Shvotim." And the Navi cannot approve that which is in the Torah. And how the Eskel say that the king Mashiach will take one portion and his own inheritance is Yisrael? And the answer is maybe because as a king he can take from the people whatever he wants. And therefore, in Yechezkel comes, the Pasuk tells us that the Melech HaMashiach can only receive 1/13, not more. And therefore, he's limited more so than other kings. And so it would seem from this Rambam, and not as the laws of the Melech HaMashiach, which are found in Hilchos Melochim, because he's only talking about the laws of kings. And that answers the question of Mechas Chinuch, that the Melech HaMashiach will get Net Yisrael more than any other king, but in other lands he will only get 1/13, which is less than any other kings who could take as much as he wants. But even the king, like a king of Mashiach, is forbidden to take something from Yisrael and Eretz Yisrael, because Eretz Yisrael was only given as an inheritance to the tribes of Israel. And with this novel approach, that the inheritance of Eretz Yisrael, no king will have permission to take what he wants from the tribes, we understand the answer of Tosfos why Achav was punished on taking the orchard, because it was his father's inheritance, and that a king could never take. The Mishnah Siavitz understood from the Gemara emphasizing that Yisrael, the king, can take one of 13 parts. The Rambam writes from all the lands that he conquers, he takes one of 13. We're seeing that the Rambam is of the opinion that Yisrael itself, he can take as much as he wants, and not only one portion from 13. And he adds that from the Rambam, it would seem that in the Chutz La'aretz there will be a division to the tribes, like we find in the Sifri and Akev. And he cites that the Rishonim disagree if other lands that are conquered by the Melochim Mashiach will be given to the tribes or not. And he refers furthermore from the Rambam that he takes from all the lands, and that's so him and his children forever, that his children afterwards can take from what they will conquer outside of Eretz Yisrael, 1/13. And one can also extrapolate that it is a chok, a decree to him and his children forever. When Mashiach will come, the world will continue to have wars and conquests. Melochim adds that the inheritance of a king belong to his, they're like the inheritance of his heirs is like that of the king himself. In Peirush HaMeir, the Rambam writes, from Yeshayahu, we learn that Mashiach will not live forever because he's going to die. He will die, and his children will live after him, and then they will have their children.